The Scuba Diver Magazine podcast is sponsored by Scuba Pro, who are celebrating their 60th year of being an iconic scuba brand, and Scuba Pro has a few offers that I'm going to break down later on in this podcast. Hi, all of you wonderful scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine podcast. Now, there's a fair amount of bad news this week, I'm afraid. I know that a lot of news media nowadays is all doom and gloom, so I don't want to dwell too much on it. I am going to cover the bad news, obviously, but I do promise that there is some nice news after I talk about all of the sad stuff. The first bit of bad news that I have to talk about is that we have lost 3 scuba divers when an Egyptian liveaboard caught fire. There's also a shark attack, and it seems that as if they're going to mummify the shark that they caught and blamed for the shark attack and then display it in a museum. Fourth Element have partnered up with a new charity that helps to train locals in marine conservation around the world, and the man who spent 100 days underwater has surfaced and details how it's changed him mentally and physically. So yeah, the first news story is that the 3 British scuba divers who remained missing when the fire spread rapidly through the Red Sea liveaboard, the Hurricane, on Sunday, have officially been declared dead. The 3 had elected not to take part in early morning dive at Elphinstone Reef in the Red Sea, so whilst the other 12 British divers in the group were being briefed on the deck at about 6:30 a.m, when the fire broke out, they quite easily evacuated onto a rib, whereas the others who were still down below were most likely in their cabins. In an update on the aftermath of the fire, the tour operator Scuba Travel, which has represented the award-winning Hurricane liveaboard in the UK since 2001, says that the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the FCO, have now contacted the families of the deceased divers who have yet to be named. Actually, I think there's a correction to that. I think one of them has been named, one of the 3, but I'll mention that later. The tour operator quoted saying the severity of the fire meant that the 12 divers were immediately evacuated by rib to another craft nearby, and the 14 crew members, including the captain and the 2 dive guides, having tried to reach the missing guests, also had to abandon ships and were rescued by rib. It is with great regret that we as a tour operator with heavy hearts must accept that 3 of our much valued dive guests who had not participated in the dive briefing early on the morning of June 11th perished in the tragic incident. Our sincere and heartfelt condolences go out to the families and friends at this very sad time. After the fire, the other 12 guests were brought ashore to Marshall Chagra, where they were provided with any medical attention that they required, and they gave statements to the local police with no personal possessions other than what they were wearing on their backs. They were moved to a hotel in Hurghada, where Scuba Travel representatives was assisting them in acquiring clothes, personal effects, and, where possible, mobile phones. The FCO and Cairo consulates were said to have been doing everything possible to arrange emergency travel documents for guests wishing to return to the UK, and the local authorities and the police were also set to investigate the cause of the fire. Hurricane was then towed to port once the fire had burned down, and it was cool enough to enter. Scuba Travel emphasised that in its 22-year association with Hurricane, the liveaboard's safety record had been excellent. Its popularity among British divers, myself included, I think I've been diving off Hurricane, had been underlined by the fact that Diver Magazine readers had voted it Liveaboard of the Year for all 4 years leading up to the COVID pandemic. So yeah, tragic, terrible news, and I think this is going to be a new conception, in that a lot of other boats are hopefully going to get new safety requirements, and they're going to go top to bottom, making sure that they're as safe as possible as soon as they find out what caused the fire. It's most likely going to be the electronics, because that seems to be a leading cause of these boat fires. And with everyone bringing all of their electronics, because years and years ago you didn't have quite as many electronic devices, and they're all charging and all this kind of stuff. So when the boats were originally constructed, they weren't designed to power your mobile phone, your tablet, your laptop, and your dive camera and your dive computers. They're rechargeable nowadays. And then you have 24, because everyone has their phone and their dive computer and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think hopefully there's going to be a new like safety upgrade to all diving vessels, especially liveaboards, just to double check that the electronics, especially, and the fire suppression systems are up to scratch. But yeah, time will tell. The next news story was a 23-year-old Russian man has been attacked and killed by a large tiger shark close to shore at a popular beach near Hurghada. The tragic tourist who had arrived several months ago with his father has been named in Russia by the Baza news outlet as Vladimir Popov. His girlfriend was also in the water with him at the time of the incident, but managed to make it safely to the shore at Dream Beach. There is a video going around online of the incident, and in the video, the man can be seen desperately shouting for his father to help him as he tries to swim for the shoreline, but the shark repeatedly pulls him underwater. A tiger shark was soon caught in nets and brought onto the shore and killed, which has been condemned by the local Hurghada Environmental Protection and Conservation Association. They believe that combined with a scarcity of the shark's natural diet caused by overfishing and a damaged fin, it had deformities on the tiger shark, believing that it reduced its ability to maneuver properly in the water. They think that this could have prompted it to seek waters in which it would be easier to find weaker prey, such as the shallow waters off of Dream Beach. Hepka quickly declared its strong condemnation for media posting video of the incident. It said that expert opinion had not been sought, that unprofessional opinions had been expressed, and the privacy of those involved had not been respected. But we've seen this before in the area where there's been shark attacks. They go out, they find a similar shark, they presume it's that one particular shark, and they just kill it. But in a weird turn of events, it seems that the tiger shark that they believe to have killed the Russian man is going to be taxidermied and then displayed at a museum. So the shark that they did catch and eventually kill was revealed to be a female who was pregnant at the time, which is awful. Following an autopsy conducted by scientists from the National Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries, they say it's unclear whether it was the same shark that killed the tourist, and the seemingly retaliatory hunt has been criticised by experts. After the autopsy, the taxidermy process began, which took 3 hours, the Institute said on Tuesday. The carcass has been treated with salts to extract moisture and stuffed with wood shavings in preparation for to be put on display at the Institute's museum in Hurghada, which I don't believe they've done before, and I don't really see how it's going to help them promote tourism in the area. I don't know. That just seems like a really weird thing for them to do. This is according to the National News, or NMENA. So I don't know the accuracy of that report, but yeah, I just thought that was a little bit weird. That not only did they catch it, they obviously did an autopsy on it to double check to see if it was the shark in question. But yeah, then they taxidermied it and they're going to put it on display in a museum. That just seems a bit weird to me. On to some lighter news. Fourth Element and Love the Oceans, who is a non-profit organisation dedicated to marine conservation, they have announced their partnership. It's a collaboration that represents a shared commitment to protecting our oceans and promoting sustainable practices within the diving community. So, Fourth Element have long had a very high standard for environmental protection, and when they're producing their dive equipment, it's made to be as environmentally friendly as possible. A lot of their lineup this year is ocean positive, which means that it's using like recycled plastics or ocean bound plastics, which they turn into their products. And Love the Oceans is widely recognized for their exceptional work in marine conservation and their dedication to community development in Mozambique. So, the organization's approach involves not only protecting marine wildlife and habitats, but also empowering local communities to become guardians of their own environment. Because when you get the locals and you teach them and you educate them on marine sustainability, then it's, yeah, teach a man to fish. It's ongoing. They place a strong emphasis on empowering women in the field of marine conservation as well. And the Love the Oceans team actively supports and encourages women to participate in their research programs, providing opportunities for training, leadership development, and career advancements, inspiring a new generation of female scientists and conservationists. So if you head over to the Fourth Element's like social media accounts, you'll see a lot of they're donating lots of wetsuits and working with them. So yeah, you'll see a lot more of that collaboration going forwards. So, as I mentioned at the start, this podcast is sponsored by the scuba diving giant Scuba Pro, who have been making great scuba diving equipment since 1963. And Scuba Pro makes everything from masks and snorkels and fins to wetsuits, dry suits, dive computers. They have a beautiful range of regulators as well. And they have a great range of products that scuba divers love because if you take their fins, for example, they still make their jet fins, which are a design from the 1960s, but divers still love them because they simply got it right the first time. The only upgrade that the jet fins have ever had over the years is to add spring heel straps. And Scuba Pro also makes some of the most cutting edge fins today, from their Sea Wing Nova and Supernova fins. So Scuba Pro covers the entire range of diving equipment, from their heritage equipment to modern technology. And right now Scuba Pro has a pair of offers at participating dealers. The first one is a free Octo offer. If you buy a Scuba Pro S620 Ti or the D420 with either a Mark 19 Evo or the Mark 25 Evo first stage, you're going to get yourself a S270 Octo for free, which is a great way to start building a regulator set and start saving yourself some money. The D420 may look a little bit different to some other second stages, but it breathes beautifully. The S620 is a combination of the best features of other Scuba Pro second stages in a great all-rounder of a second stage. The free Octo offer also extends to their S600 with a Mark 25 or a Mark 17 Evo first stage, which is one of their most popular regulators. Again, a very strong all-rounder. That and the G260 or the new G260 Carbon Black Tech with either a Mark 25 or a Mark 19 Evo first stage, you'll get yourself a free R105 Octo. Now, I know that was a lot of numbers that I just threw at you, but if you visit your local Scuba Pro dealer, there's a dealer locator on the Scuba Pro website where you can find your nearest and they can help you find the right regulator for you. The second offer is a dry suit promotion, which is a great way to save some money again or get a fancier dry suit combination in your budget. If you buy a neoprene Everdry 4 or an Exo dry suit, you can get a free K2 light undersuit set or a K2 medium thickness undersuit for £99, which has a suggested retail price of £298. So you're saving yourself some money. Or if you prefer a trilaminate dry suit, if you buy the Evertech breathable or the definition dry, you will get the K2 extreme undersuit for free, which is a great way to stay warmer in the water. Personally, I tend to wear my dry suit year round here in the UK, so a dry suit is a great investment. Both of these offers are running until the end of July in certain regions and participating dealers, so do ask them first before you turn up demanding for free Scuba Pro equipment. The next news story this is Dr. Joseph Dituri. He's a former saturation diver turned medical researcher, and he has just resurfaced following his record-breaking 100-day stay in a Florida underwater habitat. So he completed his extended dive at the Jules Undersea Lodge Marine Habitat in Key Largo on the 9th of June. He hadn't been that deep at 9 meters. The habitat sits at 9 meters underwater, and he'd been there for 100 days, and he was already aware of one key physical change. Living under pressure, I mean, they say under pressure, that's what 1.9 bar, had caused his body to shrink slightly. Before he went in, he had been 6'1" tall on the 1st of March, and after leaving, he's apparently half an inch shorter, so 1.25 centimeters shorter. At the same time, Dr. Dituri had experienced a significant improvement in the quality of his sleep, and other preliminary findings indicated that his levels of cholesterol and inflammation had been reduced during his stay. This is all according to the University of South Florida, where he's an associate professor of biomedical engineering. So the underwater habitat was just 9 square meters, so pretty snug. It sits in Emerald Lagoon, and its interior pressure is set to that of the surrounding water. So the ambient pressure, he's at 9 meters, so 1.9 bar. Its owner, the Marine Resources Development Foundation, had organized for Dr. Dituri's Project Neptune 100 underwater experiment, and during his stay on the 13th of May, the 55-year-old has broken the Guinness World Record for underwater human habituation at ambient pressure by completing 74 days in the habitat, and then, of course, he extended that to 100 days. The previous record had been set in the same location by US professors Bruce Cantrell and Jessica Fain 9 years previously, but Dr. Deep Sea has described that the achievement as less about setting records as extending human tolerance for the underwater world in an isolated, confined, extreme environment. So this is something very similar that Jacques Cousteau envisaged, and I don't know if they're still there. I think they are, but he builds these underwater habitats I think it's in the Red Sea, and yeah, they're just underwater habitats that you can scuba dive down to, and yeah, you're just at ambient pressure, which is kind of cool. And it's interesting to see the physical changes. I mean, they say that people who go into space, they grow taller because you don't have the gravity pulling you down. But here it seems that 9 meters underwater, you tend to shrink. I don't know whether that's just because of the 9 square meter habitat. I don't know whether he could stretch out properly. But hey, apparently you shrink when you're down underwater for long periods of time. Aware that hyperbaric pressure could increase cerebral blood flow, Dr. Dituri had hypothesized that the increased pressure could help humans live longer and prevent age-related diseases. He hopes that his research will eventually help doctors in treating a wide range of conditions, including traumatic brain injuries. It'll be interesting to see how or if this differs from hyperbaric chamber treatments, because I'd wager it's slightly easier to just put someone in a chamber than it is to put them in an underwater chamber. But hey, it's science. It's all very interesting. Something new that came out this week is a company called, I presume, Divin Talk, had contacted us, and they have a very new, interesting concept. I mean, I say it's very new. It's basically underwater, through water communications, which aren't particularly new. There's a few systems out there. I've used a few. They're not always the most reliable in my experience, but they do work at times. But this is a new design. And normally with through water communications, you can obviously talk to one another, but you have to have your most of your face free, especially your mouth, to be able to talk. So it's usually limited to full face masks, which is a huge investment for most scuba divers. But what Divintok or Divintok, I'm not really sure, diving makes more sense. But anyway, what they've created is basically a way to talk underwater with a traditional second stage. Now, I haven't seen too much. I've seen some videos of people using it, but I haven't actually seen much of the unit itself, especially the inside. It reminded me a bit of the M48, the probably the Mod 1 mask, or actually maybe the Super. Anyway, the Kirby Morgan make a pretty much a full face mask in the M48, but it has this large section that goes over your mouth, and that's removable, and then your second stage basically attaches to the front of that, and you breathe from the second stage more or less as usual, but with this one you seem to have a mouthpiece, but it effectively creates this airspace over your mouth, and you push a button on the side and you can talk, which is pretty cool. It uses a relatively standard transceiver receiver, so a little like earpiece that hooks onto your mask strap and hovers over your ear, and then you can hear them underwater. And we're trying to organise a sample unit to test it out. I think I've seen that it's won some design awards for 2022-23, which is pretty cool. So yeah, something a little bit different, and it means that you don't have to have a full face mask to be able to communicate with one another underwater. I know a lot of people, they're not a huge fan of this kind of idea because they enjoy scuba diving to get away from these kind of communications. But yeah, if it's relatively cheap and it's convenient and it works, obviously, then yeah, it's pretty cool, because then you can have your own half mask to be able to see, and if you've got prescription lenses, then it's no issue. But then for one dive, if you feel like you need to communicate and talk underwater, then yeah, you just have this. Whether it's I'm thinking for like videos and having a video subject, if behind the camera I can be able to talk and whoever I'm recording can hear what I'm saying, they don't necessarily have to talk back to me, but as long as they can hear, it seems a clever system. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Something else that I saw this week is that Aqua Breather released a video on their Hydroids, the helmets rebreather. They had some open water trials in Turkey, and they released a short video of two divers in the water. Pretty shallow water, granted, and we didn't see a lot of long cuts. It's just another one of these weird things that, I don't know, I still don't quite get it, and some of the comments are quite condemning because some of the chemicals that they use in their like scrubber system don't react well with water. So we'll see. I always keep an eye on Hydroid because it's just a very new concept. The first thing that struck me with it is the just pure size of it. You got a traditional like full face mask, as it were, for you to be able to see, but you got so much hardware like around the sides of your face and especially above your head. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to take off. It'll kind of be cool if it does. And the thing that worries me is that they're a little bit cagey about the information about it. It reminds me of those. I can't even remember what they were called, but it was going around on like Kickstarter and that kind of stuff. They were like underwater gills it's this tiny thing like the James Bond or the Star Wars like mouthpiece with two little things either side, and it can extract oxygen through the water, so you can breathe underwater without clunky cylinders and whatnot. And of course people threw money at at Kickstarter and whatnot, and of course it was fake. It was people just making things up. So there is an air of that to it, and I was trying to like watch the video to see how long they could like hold their breath. They were only at a few meters in depth, so they're not like deep diving, but who knows? It might be a real product. Prove me wrong. But yeah, if you are interested, there's a new video on their YouTube channel, which I just thought was just something a little bit interesting. For me, two new products. I've got the Mara's Serious Dive computer. I've got it for a couple of days, so it's really just unboxing. But if there are any questions about it, let me know, and I'll try and find out for you if I can. It's okay. The screen isn't as bright as I thought it would be. I think I'm quite used to the Shearwater Terric, which is similar in like design. But the screen on the Terric, when that's set to its brightest setting, is really bright and clear, whereas the Sirius, not quite as bright, which I suppose makes sense. You can still read it, obviously. It's tricky for me to gauge when I have like all these studio lights and whatnot switched on. So I've got all these sort of lights, and then I'm looking at this screen. So that might be a bit of an unfair statement, but day to day, it seems fine. I can read the screen, but it's just not as bright, which of course will be better for like battery life and whatnot. But hey, otherwise, yeah, it's a watch-sized technical dive computer, which seems pretty snazzy, and it's got those quick release watch straps, the ones similar to the Garmin dive computers, so they're kind of cool. Otherwise, I have a Nortec cylinder valve, so yeah, if there are any questions about Nortec, then by all means sort of pop them down in the comments section below, and I'll try and release a video about that. It's quite hard to do a product video on a cylinder valve, but yeah, they are quite fancy. Otherwise, that's kind of been my week. So yeah, thank you for listening, everybody. Remember to head over to our website, scubadivermag.com. Check out our YouTube channel as well if you haven't already. Like and subscribe. Just double check that you are subscribed to the channel. Otherwise, thank you for listening, everybody, and of course, safe diving. The Scuba Diver Magazine podcast is sponsored by Scuba Pro. For more information, head over to scubapro.johnsonoutdoors.com and find out more about their amazing scuba diving range.